Good morning, everyone. My name is Sarilis Carrasquillo, and today I chose to talk about one of the most important themes in Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, which is magical transformation. So, throughout the novel, the author uses magical changes like growing, shrinking, um, or even transformation into animals. These transformations don't just affect the main character, Alice, but we're also going to see how they shape creatures, objects, and emotions of the world around her. So, by looking at these quotes, we will understand how Carol uses fantasy to explore identity, confusion, and the unpredictable nature of change. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sarilis Carrasquillo, and today I chose to talk about one of the most important themes in Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, which is magical transformation. So, throughout the novel, the author uses magical changes like growing, shrinking, um, or even transformation into animals. These transformations don't just affect the main character, Alice, but we're also going to see how they shape creatures, objects, and emotions of the world around her. So, by looking at these quotes, we will understand how Carol uses fantasy to explore identity, confusion, and the unpredictable nature of change. So, for quote number one, I chose the following quote, "The baby grunted again, and Alice looked very anxiously into its face to see what was the matter with it. There could be no doubt that it had a very turned up nose. It grunted again so violently that she looked down into its face in some alarm. This time, where there could be no mistake, it was neither more nor less than a pig." Unquote. So the Duchess's baby magically transforms into a pig. This bizarre change shows the absurdity and unpredictability of the Wonderland, where we can see that logic and biology are constantly distorted. Um, I find that this transformation reflects an important element of fantasy literature, um, where ordinary beings change form into something unpredictable and in a magical way that challenges reality and any form of logic. Um, and so, going back to the quote, the scene shows how innocence can be distorted in this world where there is more chaos rather than reason. So for the second quote, I chose, quote, "And this time it vanished quite slowly, beginning with the end of the tail and ending with the grin, which remained some time after the rest of it had gone," unquote. The Cheshire Cat can appear and disappear at will, leaving only its grin behind. The cat's shifting form represents the instability of reality and identity, a magical transformation that defies physical laws and highlights Wonderland's far from reality nature. So, this slow disappearance in the Cheshire Cat is a moment that captures the surreal logic of Wonderland. Because within Wonderland, we're seeing how even a creature's physical form doesn't follow any natural rule. By allowing the cat to vanish piece by piece, I believe the author is highlighting fantasy's ability, the genre of fantasy the ability to bend reality, turning something impossible into something ordinary, something normal within the novel's world, which is Wonderland. So for quote number 3, I chose the following from chapter 8. It reads, quote, "A large rose tree stood near the entrance of the gardener. The roses growing on it were white, but there were 3 gardeners at it, busily painting them red. Alice thought this was a very curious thing, and she went nearer to watch them, and just as she came up to them, she heard one of them say, 'Look out now, 5, don't go splashing paint over me like that.' 'I couldn't help it,' said 5 in a sulky tone. 7 jogged my elbow.' On which 7 looked up and said, 'That's right, 5, always lay the blame on others.'" Unquote. So in this scene, playing cards come to life as gardeners, complete with personalities, speech, and quarrels, a known characteristic of fantasy transformation. These cards' human-like behavior transforms a simple deck of cards into an animated society serving the Queen of Hearts, which we will look into moving forward. Carol's magical realism here turns everyday objects into living beings. So in this world, anything can change form or meaning at any moment. So this shows one of the most clear examples of magical transformation in the novel. Ordinary objects like cards become fully alive, capable of working, arguing, and expressing emotion. And this transformation shows how the fantasy genre in this literature has a power to dissolve boundaries between what's real and what's unreal. So for quote number 4, I chose, quote, "One side will make you grow taller and the other side will make you grow shorter," unquote, from chapter 5. The caterpillar introduces the magical mushroom that changes Alice's size. It symbolizes control over transformation, showing how change becomes a part of the fantasy world's logic, in this case, the Wonderland. So the big magical mushroom becomes a fantastical object that is capable of altering Alice's size, depending on which part of the mushroom she nibbles on or eats on, which is significant because later on this becomes a tool for her as she uses it throughout the rest of the novel to enter small spaces and then to regain her normal height. Some critics have said that this transformation can reflect Alice's struggle to control her identity while she's navigating Wonderland. So this is one of my favorite quotes from the novel. Quote number 5. "Off with their heads," shouted the queen at the top of her voice. Then the queen turned suddenly and said kindly, "Can you play croquet?" Unquote. So this reflects psychological transformation. Her unstable mood reflects the dreamlike, nonsensical logic of Wonderland, where even emotions transform unpredictably. In fantasy literature, such exaggerated temperament shifts symbolize a world without order or consistency. A world ruled by whim, magic, and absurdity rather than reason. So this quote reveals a different kind of transformation in Wonderland, which is emotional and psychological instability, like I mentioned before, which is a contrast to Alice's physical transformations. As a contrast, the queen has rapid mood swings, which represent the unpredictable, chaotic nature of this world's people that are in charge. Wonderland, people that are in charge in Wonderland. So we can see that her temperament transforms instantly, without logic, without reason, emphasizing how fantasy often tends to, like I mentioned before, exaggerate human behavior, um, to often highlight the absurdity of what is going on. So this contrast between fury and kindness shows that in Wonderland, even emotions are fluid, which shows that this theme of transformation shapes not only bodies and objects, something physical, but also personalities. So for the last quote, I chose one from chapter 5, which is, quote, "Who are you?" said the caterpillar. This was not an encouraging opening for a conversation. Alice replied rather shyly, I hardly know, sir. Just at present, at least I know who I was when I got up this morning, but I think I must have been changed several times since then." Unquote. So, in this quote, Alice's response shows that her sense of identity has changed along with her body. As we know, she has shrunk and grown different times. Throughout all these magical transformations, like I mentioned, shrinking and growing and encountering bizarre creatures that also have transformed, she begins to lose track of who she is. As a complement to these quotes, I read the essay "Why Size Matters in Wonderland" by Jacob Strick, and he, as the author, argues that size changes carry meaning, not just visual absurdity, but also affect Alice's emotion, behavior, and sense of self. So for this reason, I consider this quote one of the most important quotes, or one of the most important scenes of the novel, because it reflects fantasy's deeper theme on metamorphosis, on change, which is not just changing shape, but changing self. So the magic inside of Wonderland forces Alice to question the stability of identity, which is a core element in transformation in fantasy literature. So my conclusion would be that in Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, Lewis Carroll uses transformation to explore identity and change. Alice constantly grows and shrinks, reflecting her struggle to understand who she is in a world where nothing stays the same. Magical creatures and objects also transform, showing how fantasy blurs the line between reality and imagination. Through these changes, Carroll reveals that transformation is at the heart of Wonderland's magic and meaning. Jacob Strick's analysis shows that size changes in Alice's Adventures in Wonderland are more than whimsical fantasy. They reveal how Wonderland disrupts Alice's sense of self, memory, and logic. As he argues, Alice's constant shrinking and growing create instability that mirrors her internal confusion, making size a metaphor for identity loss in a world without fixed rules. In these examples of quotes, we can see how transformation defines both the physical and psychological landscape of Wonderland. These are the references. Thank you for your attention.